Dragon Age Inquisition is perhaps the buggiest game I have ever played. The loading times are impossible on console and PC. Party members will get frozen in place. Enemies' AI will bug out and let you beat them without them fighting back. The final cutscene of the game is not viewable as intended. NPCs are constantly dashing around at light speed and clipping through terrain because their pathfinding is messed up. You can fall into a pit and end up stuck in a death loop because the game won't spawn you on solid ground. And to top it all off, the game is so buggy that sometimes the game will neglect to autosave when it is supposed to, leaving you to replay long stretches of gameplay if you fail. Those aren't even all of the bugs I found in Dragon Age Inquisition, just the ones I could remember off the top of my head at the time of writing. And also, those were all from my own experience. These bugs vary in severity, of course, but many of them are so drastic that they force a reload or fundamentally affect the experience one might have with the game. And none of that is even to mention all of the issues the game suffers from a game design level, such as how even basic enemies have insane amounts of health and turn every encounter into a boring, tedious grind, or how the game forces players to complete menial side quests, perform challenges, or find collectibles in order to progress the main storyline. I go into much more depth about all this stuff in my video, The Blandish Inquisition, and I highly recommend you check it out. I have an iCard in the top right corner of the video, and I'll have a link to it at the end of the video. But all this seems so much more pertinent now because of the new expose released by Kotaku editor Jason Schreier on the issues that have plagued Anthem. In short, people should never have given Dragon Age Inquisition a pass. Just those issues I have listed alone should have been the reason for that game to receive a 7 out of 10 at best and force BioWare leadership to realize that the way they do things is not the way things should be done. The developers working on Dragon Age Inquisition suffered so much crunch, so much mental stress and strain and lack of morale that they wanted Dragon Age Inquisition to fail in order to send that very same signal to leadership. And it's very telling that several of the issues and glitches I mentioned just a little while ago have cropped up again in Anthem. And a lot of the same issues with development, the depression, the mental stress and strain from a team being overworked have shown up again with the development of Anthem. As Anthem was being revealed and marketed over the years, the hype for it never really seemed there. And the abysmal E3 2018 showcase, which shared basically just concept art and a bunch of flying around, should have been the first sign that there was really no game behind the curtains. There was just a bunch of set dressing but no performances, as the low-level developers at BioWare had to scramble and fight amongst themselves just to figure out what the game was even supposed to be. The leadership at BioWare spent so much time not deciding things, not being concrete. There was so much infighting, so much politics, and so much design by committee nonsense that the game wasn't even concretely conceptualized until the bullshot E3 2017 presentation, which was only built to impress EA executive Patrick Soderlund. The game, at the time that demo presentation was released, didn't even exist yet, and effectively the entirety of the game would go on to be cobbled together in the final 12 to 18 months of development. And according to this article, it seems like so much of the leadership's energy was fixated on reactionary surface level choices and not nailing down the core of the game or fix the real damning issues that the game or its teams were faced with. Oh shit, people memed Andromeda, so let's spend a shit ton of money on performance capture. Fuck, our game looks ugly. Let's get the Battlefield guys in here to make the textures all glossy and pretty. Damn, Soderlund didn't like the game, so let's build a demo specifically to impress him rather than finally settle questions and debates about what this game fundamentally is so that our teams can start working on it. I shouldn't even have to say this, but you're supposed to make the game first, then cut out a piece to showcase as a demo, not the other way around. This is the same story with Andromeda and apparently the same story with Inquisition, and it shows in both those cases. Yet I don't hear many people talking about the core issues of Inquisition, even when it relates to Andromeda and Anthem. The signs were there from the beginning, and it really feels like the Fallout 76 effect, where a developer can get so enveloped in pride and excuses until they finally release a product that is so unforgivable that people can't help but take notice and speak out. Inquisition, I would say, is BioWare's Fallout 4, a slightly above average game riddled with bugs and questionable design choices, but competent enough that people give it a pass on release. It took Anthem, BioWare's Fallout 76, for people to realize that something was very, very wrong. The note I want to end on is that BioWare's leadership has not changed, and they will not change unless we keep speaking up on behalf of the depressed, overworked, emotionally taxed developers at the company, and on behalf of the consumers who deserve a better product. We're ultimately in this together, consumers and developers, and the BioWare leadership seem to have taken on an attitude that is hostile to both the hardworking devs at their company and to the consumers who call out the shoddy product that arrives as a result. There are many things I can point to as evidence that the BioWare leadership has not learned a thing, such as their response to Jason Schreier, which paints him as a hostile entity casting blame to hardworking individuals who did their best. However, I'd rather call attention to BioWare's worst statement yet. The short answer is that the cost of transparency is things change. We did our best to be transparent on the journey to going live, but with that we knew things would be different in some situations. Sometimes people would be happy and sometimes they would be upset. It's the cost of transparency. That was a post by lead producer Ben Ervo of BioWare. And in the face of Jason Schreier's expose, it turns out things didn't just change. Consumers were actively lied to through bullshit marketing by a leadership team that had no idea what the fuck they wanted to make and had no backbone in guiding their team to a finished product. Transparency is almost inherently a good, positive thing, and those who say otherwise are usually the ones with something sinister to hide. So when it comes out that your game was pushed out of the gate with missing features, game-breaking bugs, threadbare content, and a deliberately padded out campaign due to 6 years of politics, pride, and mismanagement, what you do is come out, apologize to your workers and customers, and promise to restructure so that this never happens again. Instead, BioWare leadership has blamed transparency. They've blamed bugs. They've blamed early access. They've blamed old builds. They've blamed live services and constant iterations. They've blamed streamers for showing off issues. They've blamed everything except their own mismanagement. BioWare has some serious soul searching and restructuring to do if they ever plan to get back on their feet again. Anthem is a damn shame. Its problems began with Inquisition, got worse with Andromeda, and capsized with Anthem. We should never have let BioWare get away with it in the first place.